So this is by far one of my favorite musicals. Actually, I think my favorite musical so far, at least, is The Umbrellas of Cherbourg by Jacques Demy. And I might mispronounce some of the French names, however, I'm obviously not French. However, I really do want to talk about this movie. It's one of my favorite movies from the sort of French New Wave era, and definitely my favorite musical is this movie, which actually was a key inspiration for La La Land. Which, if you've seen La La Land and you've seen this movie, you can sort of see sort of the some of the homages that it'll play, especially in its use of umbrellas and its use of colors that you see in this. And even Damien Chazelle, who was the director of La La Land and Whiplash, said that The Umbrellas of Cherbourg was a direct inspiration, and that I think Jacques Demy is one of his favorite directors. But even though I actually liked Whiplash more than I liked La La Land, but that's besides the point. I think most one of the biggest aspects of the film that would jump out to you as soon as you watch it, even from the first shot, is its use of color. This movie's use of color is so wonderful and spectacular. Its use of these it uses these bright sort of very vibrant colors in such a sort of candy-like way, where it's just the cinematographer Jean Rabier and Jacques and the director, of course, Jacques Demy, the way that they managed to use color to sort of to kind of separate, even to characterize certain moods within the shot, and to characterize certain characters and associate them with each other by using certain colors. You see, certain characters are associated with certain colors only, and the production design is absolutely spectacular. And another thing that you can talk about in terms of the cinematography of Jean Rabier is its camera movements, sort of fluid camera movements that can tell a story within uh, that layer a story while we're watching the movie. If you understand what I'm saying, there are these sort of camera moves that, if you watch the movie, you can see these sort of scenes. Almost every shot has its very clear beginning, middle, and end, where the camera would sort of pan forward, follow an actor, move in, push in, and then you can sort of sense the cut when it comes. When you sense that cut, then it kind of feels very natural. And I think the film had two editors, Anne-Marie Cotret and Monique Tezier. And sorry if I mispronounce it, but it's very fluid camera movement and storytelling by using the camera, is by having that clear beginning, middle, and end before you reach that cut, adds a kind of very nice, what you would call, fluidity to it. And another aspect of the film that I think really shines out, in musicals, the music in itself is its own character, and there's no one who could have done this who could have done it better than Michel Legrand, who was I think a frequent collaborator of Orson Welles in his later career. Who was actually the original reason why I wanted to see this film was because Michel Legrand had done the score of the movie. Had done, I think, most of Jacques Demy's scores, and this is such a wonderful a wonderful a wonderful use of music, in the way that of Michel Legrand sort of flourishes with the music, and in the same kind of way that Ennio Morricone would have flourished music in a scene in one of Leone's films. Except obviously now we're looking at it, that was from more of an Italian perspective. This is more from a kind of jazz perspective, but still sort of the same idea in how they use that music. And especially this is way that they'll flourish at at the end of each part of the movie, because this movie is split up into about three parts. First, the departure, as one of our main protagonists, Guy, is sent off to war, and he's leaving his sort of fiance behind, and has to go off into war for about 2 years. That first part is called the departure, and the final scene we see before it goes into the part two, we have this big flourishing of the theme. Michel Legrand just comes in sort of full force, and he does this at the end of each part of the movie: part one, part two, part three. Part two being the absence, part three being the return. And in a way, the way that these different parts are kind of labeled, it feels as if this movie is centered more so around Guy, just in the way Guy being the male protagonist, the male end of the love affair, because it's about Guy's departure. And then the second part, we don't see Guy at all. We just focus on Genevieve, the female protagonist. But the second chapter, the second part, is called the absence of Guy, and then the return of Guy being the third part, when he comes back, and we primarily focus on him just until the very end. And it's such a, I read this one review, I forgot who the critic was, I can't draw his name right now, but where he said that despite the sort of somber tone of the scenario of the movie, it doesn't give way into that kind of cynicism. It still even ends with, even though the ending is kind of, in a way, kind of, actually, it is tragic. The movie ends with this kind of still upbeat play, this wonderful upbeat play, but it's still in a way bittersweet, because you think, well, on one half you have love and happiness, and then on the other half you have this sadness. You don't know if this person loves this person, of whoever that they're with, but you know that, and if you've seen the movie, you know what I'm talking about. So this movie ends with the kind of bittersweet aspect. And another thing that really stands out in this movie is the shot compositions, especially the shot compositions in its use of long shots, when it goes into quite a few sort of high angle long shots in this movie that looked like it could have been a painting. And in my head, I don't know why, but some of these long shots that they would use kind of reminded me of an Edward Hopper painting. Maybe it's the setting, the time, that is, in the 50s, and Dennis Hopper, was a painter. Not Dennis Hopper, sorry, Edward Hopper was mainly a painter, throughout the 40s and the 50s. However, that's what I thought about when I saw a lot of these shot compositions, how meticulous they are, how beautiful they were in their use of color, in their use of placement of the actors. Even the background actors fit so well in some of these shot compositions and look so beautiful. There's this one shot where, in part one of the film, where Guy is saying his goodbyes before he leaves for the train, and then you can see these sort of people in the background, one of them smoking, sailors are there, and you get this real feel of the environment, and it looks beautiful. It's beautiful to look at. This is one of these movies where you could just enjoy looking at it. And one of the things I struggle with all sort of movies that are this beautiful but are foreign or in a different language, is that it's difficult. It's kind of, you really want to, because oftentimes what I had to do is I had to watch this movie first, read the subtitles, and watch it again without the subtitles, so that I can really get that cinematic look of it, so that I can watch it for the beauty of how it looks. And and I recommend, like, after watching this movie, if you don't speak French, watch it again but without the subtitles, just so that you can enjoy the short compositions that the director, um, the production designer, and the cinematographer are able to create, and the editor is able to create. The editors on this movie did a terrific job in their use of sort of these seamless cuts that were helped by the sort of fluid movement of the camera, and the fluid and methodical movement of the camera that helped along the editing make it seem sort of seamless. And the use of one of my favorite cuts was a match cut that the editors use, the editors being Anne-Marie Cottret and Monique Tezier. One of my favorite match cuts is when Guy is embracing Genevieve as he's holding her in the streets, as he's telling her, I have to go off to the war, and they're embracing each other, and then it match cuts to them in the same composition but in a restaurant, and you don't really see that cut. It's kind of invisible. It feels so smooth. In that one cut already, we're in a completely different environment. We've moved from outside into inside, and it's so seamless that you might not even notice the first time around, However, I really do love this movie. I recommend this movie for anyone and everybody who's interested in musicals and just movies in general. This is a terrific movie.